they develop it. Then we have something called cat's claw. That's an anti-inflammatory from a vine in Peru. It's the bark, and it's an anti-inflammatory. There are about 80 clinical trials on Bella Grace. Please get a subscription now and save. MelissaHouseBG.com.
This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast on this March 12th, 2025. Glad you are with us tonight. And we're going to talk tonight to JJ Carroll. We're going to talk about the arrest of the former president of the Philippines and the International Criminal Court. 79 years old. We're gonna I believe that's how old he is. We're going to ask the question, what authority does the International Criminal Court have? What is the International Criminal Court? Who are some of the judges? What countries are they from? What is the former president of the Philippines being accused of? And why did President Trump take us out of the ICC, not recognize them in February of this year, when he became president again in January, putting sanctions on them? Is this all intimidation against President Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, and others? We'll get to that tonight. What countries are backing the International Criminal Court? That in itself should tell you everything you need to know about the ICC, right? JJ Carroll. Then Patrick Wood, who's been studying globalism for years, will weigh in on this. And then Michael Yawn's going to join us directly from the Panama Canal, right on the Panama Canal, in fact. And then we're going to be joined by Dean Haskin and Chris Bowman. We're going to talk about crash of 2008. A lot of people weren't ready. A lot of folks who were about to go into retirement couldn't do it. They lost too much money in 2008 crash. Others who retired, they go back to work. Let's talk about some things you better do in this uncertain world and economy to make sure you don't find yourself in that situation as well, right? All right, before we get started, remember, folks, we do a lot of long format interviews here where we don't interrupt our guest with commercials, okay? We could. Logan this week started us on a new podcast platform. What's it called, Logan? We're on all of them, he says. All right. Spotify, Apple, iHeart. We're on one that they run commercials automatically, right? Which one is that? Which one runs commercials automatically? They all do. All right. So it's an automated system, and they run commercials automatically. And every day, Logan can log in there and say, oh, yeah, on your podcast yesterday, they sold ads and you had this many viewers, which means you made this much. And if you really get it going and really promote it, you can start making really good money doing that. And I said, wow, no wonder a lot of these guys take all these commercial breaks. But I don't want to do that on my show. I don't want to do that on my normal shows. Okay? So it's not like we don't have the option to do it. We do. We can absolutely do it. I don't want to do it. I like the format we have. And the format we have depends on you to support us, not us rolling our show out to some company that pumps it full of inventory promoting soap and shampoo and pickup trucks. All right? Nothing wrong with those things or people that do that. I just like to start interviews with people and not interrupt them with a bunch of commercials. What do you think? So here's what I'm going to tell you right off the bat. And then we're going to get to it with JJ Carroll and then Patrick Wood and on down the line. We need your support. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. WorldviewTube.com/sponsors. You know how crazy we are about Bella Grace and their elixir. And Melissa loves their skincare and she loves the Bella Trim. She's on the Bella Trim. She loves all the benefits that come from the Bella Trim, optimizing your insulin, regulating your blood glucose, getting your blood pressure down. It's good for your cardiac health. Has prebiotics in it, lowers your inflammation, all these things she wrote out because she did a lot of research on this. All right. Logan is now on Bella Grace to lose a few pounds for summertime. Aren't you, Logan? So Melissa's on it. Logan's on it. A lot of you are getting on it. So again, check this out at melissahousebg.com. She loves the restorative sleep. She loves this. Melissa takes 2 of these restorative sleep gummies before bed, all natural. Her issue isn't getting to sleep, it's staying asleep. She gets awake and then she's up for a couple hours. So she loves all their products. You'll find that at melissahousebg.com or worldviewtube.com/sponsors. We love the Numi Swish for Life. We love it because swishforlife.com, we have a lower third for that. Swishforlife.com, we love it with the glutathione that helps to detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's and dementia. We love our Gatatana. I drink the Numi every day, swish with the Numi. I take my Bella Grace elixir, and I take my Gatatana. The 3 things I do every day, okay? I highly recommend all of them. The Gatatana, it is loaded with billions. 1 scoop is billions of plant cells. It's got all of our amino acids, all kinds of trace minerals and things that are awesome for you, okay? Let's go to the Dolly cam. We know Dolly is in the house. She's on her MyPillow pet bed. There she is. And she's got the little black schnauzer next to her tonight, Logan. The camera keeps going out, but there she is. But anyway, we give her a half a scoop of Gatatana every day on her food. Now, let's go back to this. Oh, there's another screenshot. Look at that. The little black schnauzer. That's Lily. Let's go to this right here. Now, this is the guy. This is from July 6, 2005. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. That's the headline. I'm not making claims. He was raising phytoplankton and started eating it by, just sticking his hand in there, eating it, and grabbing some and eating it. He's like, what do I got to lose? They're giving me a terminal case here. Goes in for surgery, biopsy comes back, it's benign. What are you doing? I'm eating phytoplankton. So that is how our buddy Dave Hunter ends up with Global Plankton Alliance, which is melissahousegpa.com. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you, folks, his personal story. You put it into YouTube. We played the video before. He went on to live like another 10 years, retired to Hawaii, died in his 80s. So there you go. I drink it every day. So check it out, melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com. All right, go back to where we were, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Scroll through for all the other sponsors that include the water purifier. We love the water purifier to get those chemicals that do cause cancers out of our water. The shower filter, I have one for the shower. I have one for under my sink. Dolly loves this water. Communications, Worldview Talk, satellite phones, and solar generators. Check it all out, worldviewtube.com/sponsors, folks. Now, let's do a long format interview. Joining me now is JJ Carroll. He's one of our own broadcasters, heard each night, prime time, right here, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, Monday through Friday. Well, there is a big story out today, and that is the president of the Philippines, the former president, I should say, the former president of the Philippines has been arrested and taken to The Hague. And I want to get the correct pronunciation of his name. Rodrigo Duterte. I guess that's about as good as I can do. I went to a couple websites. There's an American pronunciation, a Spanish pronunciation. Rodrigo Duterte. That's the best I can do. I got a D in high school Spanish. I'm American, people. I speak English. Thank you very much. No need to press 1 or 2. Joining me now. But by the way, why is this a big deal? because the International Criminal Court is, well, it seems as though they like to arrest people that don't fit into political correctness. You know, they have come against Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Donald Trump. Donald Trump actually put out a statement with the White House shortly after he got back into office, talking about the International Criminal Court and his thoughts on it. And in fact, I think I have that statement somewhere here. Here we go. Imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court, February 6, 2025. We'll get into that in a minute. What is it with the former president of the Philippines? Apparently, he was known for being really tough on illegal drugs and sex trafficking. Now, if there's more to the story, I'm not finding it, because I've spent quite a bit of time today researching this guy and even going through and studying what his campaign promises were, what it is he said he was going to do, and how it was he got elected. And apparently he's being charged with crimes against humanity. Why? For being too tough on drug dealers and sex traffickers? You mean actually maybe, I don't know, eliminating them? Using the government to end their life? Which I think is one of the things the government can do. Romans 13 says, if you want to do what's right, if you don't want to fear the government, do what's right. And you should have no fear. But if you do what's wrong, you better be afraid, because the government has the sword to put you to death. Well, you know what? If you're killing people with your drugs, you deserve the death penalty. Now, again, if there's more to this story, I'm going to try to find it. But right now, what I'm finding is this guy was absolutely after the drug dealers and the sex traffickers. Here he said, if you want to become rich after I'm elected president, you should go into the funeral business. Because I guess he was going to take a lot of people down. Apparently, he said, I will kill these drug lords to save the future of your children and the future of this country. Just give me 6 months. That is what I promise you. Let's see, what else? I think I have a few other quotes here by him. It is good if we could kill another 32 each day. Maybe we could cure what ails this country. All right, joining me now is JJ Carroll. JJ, the International Criminal Court. I have to wonder if this isn't, again, a message to Putin, a message to Benjamin Netanyahu, a message to Donald Trump. I don't trust the International Criminal Court. Clearly, President Trump doesn't either. But I don't know. If there's something evil about the former president of the Philippines, I'm trying to find it. Right now, what I'm finding is he had no tolerance for drug dealers and their drugs that enslave and kill children or adults, or sex trafficking, and he had no problem killing these people. What are you hearing?
Well, I remember reading this yesterday, that there's a criminal warrant out for him, and I was passing through that article, and I was like, isn't this the same guy that was going after the drug dealers and killing them and child sex traffickers? So I started reading the article thinking, well, maybe this guy was typical in third world, was actually a drug dealer, actually a sexual predator. Nope. They just said they had crimes against humanity. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? And I believe it's interesting because everything in the globe is connected. There's nothing happening in a vacuum. Everything is tied to each other. All the Jeffrey Epstein, all the P. Diddy, all the child sex trafficking in Ukraine, everything is tied to each other. So how does this guy get arrested for what? I still haven't heard what the crimes against humanity were, unless killing drug dealers is a crime against humanity.
Well, that appears to be the situation, is that they didn't like how tough he was. Apparently, he was a pretty tough character on the drug trade and the drug traffickers. And again, I'm like you. I've done some research, and I'm like, where are the crimes against humanity? So again, I don't know. I'll tell you what President Trump had to say about these guys. I'll get to that, go back to that page where the White House put something out. Here we go. By the authority vested in me, this is from February 6th, as president, by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and he goes on to list more. I, Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, find that the International Criminal Court, as established by the Rome Statute, has engaged in illegitimate and baseless actions targeting America and our close ally, Israel. The ICC has, without legitimate basis, asserted jurisdiction over and opened preliminary investigations concerning personnel of the United States and certain of its allies, including Israel, and has further abused its power by issuing baseless arrest warrants targeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Minister of Defense gallant. And he goes on from there. The United States will impose tangible and significant consequences on those responsible for the ICC's transgressions, some of which may include the blocking of property and assets, as well as the suspension of entry into the United States of ICC officials, employees, and agents, etc. So, obviously, President Trump has a real problem with this organization. I think I remember him at the UN during his first term giving a speech saying, basically, go pound sand, guys. You have no authority over us. JJ?
Yeah, but think about this, that we had this before, meaning our own government was subservient to the ICC. We gave them power. Why would we, as Americans, give anybody except the American government power over us? It makes no sense. But when you begin to connect the dots, global reset, the global migration, the illegal alien global migration, the destruction of the Western civilization, what's the best way to do that? Is through drugs, sexual perversion. We're finding out the CIA using USAID was one of their main component to create that civil unrest was to interject or inject transgender gender ideology into nations that were like, what is this? And now it's there, and now we have societal chaos. Cultural norms are falling apart. And then you look at that and you go, oh my gosh, our CIA through USAID was doing that. Well, my gosh, that's what they're doing to us. That's the chaos we live in now. So I don't find anything that you uncover, Brandon, that's happening in a global setting to poo-poo that away and say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with us. Everything has to do with everything. And it's a great awakening now in America where we're finding out, hey, the enemy of the United States of America is the United States of American government.
Here's an article by AGM. The youngest survivor we've ever met is now safe from cyber sex trafficking. In a heartbreaking rescue operation that led IJM to the youngest victim we've ever encountered, 4 girls and 1 boy were rescued from cyber sex trafficking yesterday in the Philippines. The 5 victims, the youngest, a baby less than a year old, are now safe at shelters and will receive ongoing care from government and IJM social workers. Okay, again, if someone can show me what this guy did, but right now everything I find is they had a massive problem of drugs and sex trafficking in the Philippines, and he basically campaigned, promised his people that he would put an end to this. Here's an article from 2020. Philippine president and politicians push for return of death penalty amid war on drugs. Okay, this president, he had renewed his push for the reintroduction of capital punishment, calling in his State of the Nation address in late July for the death penalty to be reestablished as a punishment for drug trafficking. They come as the Philippines Congress considers a range of bills seeking the reestablishment of capital punishment, which was last abolished in 2006. What do you think this again is intimidation of other leaders in the world? Is that what this is?
You would think so, right? So you have one man right now, Donald Trump, completely destroying the global power structure. They can go and they can arrest a former president of a nation. What do you think they're going to do to our president? Do you think they're going to arrest him? They can't. The only thing left for the crazy left and the global power structure is to kill him.
Let me come back to that for a second. Put a thumbtack in that one. One of these articles says that in February 2018, the ICC finally launched a preliminary investigation into alleged crimes against humanity in Duterte's drug war. On Duterte's orders, the Philippines withdrew from the Rome Statute, the ICC's founding treaty. Duterte, the ICC, accused them of crusading against him and condemned the United Nations, quote, baseless, unprecedented, and outrageous attacks, in quote, on him and his administration. Now, listen to this. The country's withdrawal from the ICC took effect the following year, 2019. The ICC, however, retained jurisdictions of alleged crimes committed when the country was a member. So this guy pulls them out, says, I'm president. I'm not going to put up with your baseless claims like Donald Trump has done. And now they've gone back, now that he's not president, and arrested him and said, we're going to go back and we're going to grab jurisdiction over the crimes you committed supposedly when you were a member. The concern is this going to be what they do to Donald Trump? You know, basically these guys are making up the rules as they go, JJ.
Well, they've been making up the rules as they go here in the United States of America, where they're going to retroactive create a law and then go back X amount of years for sex crimes on some crazy lunatic that said that Donald Trump raped her in a changing room. I mean, so my point is, you think that this is crazy and it could never get to America. It's already here in America. And then other world leaders need to be, that are on the fringes or on the outside of the United Nations or the ICC and all of that are trying to regain their sovereignty. They need to look at this and go, oh, the Philippines aren't a powerful nation. They can come do this to a former leader. They can come do that to me. I mean, look what we did to Saddam Hussein. Was he a savage? Yeah. We went in there and we killed him for weapons of mass destruction, and there were no weapons of mass destruction. We live in an alternative Twilight Zone universe right now, and everything is coming out in real time, and I believe there's a giant, massive cover-up of the global elites trying to just cover it up. And it sounds crazy, right, Brad? We sound like 10 years ago, people would click us off because we sound like Alex Jones. But lo and behold, Alex Jones has been right the whole time. So we just live in a crazy time in the world history, I believe.
Well, we do. And look at what's happening in Syria. When these, I think our CIA under Biden went in there and got rid of him and let this HTS take over, which is basically ISIS, Solani's group, we said this is not going to go well for Christians. Well, now we see a lot of Christians being slaughtered on video. The Alawite Muslims, which are really not Muslims, according to our Islamic expert Shahram Hadian, says they're not really Muslims. They don't want to follow large aspects of what the Prophet did. Certainly jihad's one of them. So they're basically seen as hypocrites under Islamic law and worthy of being killed along with the infidels, the Christians. Well, we knew that was coming. Who was behind that? It looks like our own government under Biden helped to do that and bring this group into power. That's what many believe. So not a good guy, Assad. I'm not here to defend him, but look how we just destabilized that region even more. Now Israel's making airstrikes into Syria to try to protect those Christians and the Alawite Muslims that are begging Israel for help. You gave Saddam Hussein as an example. I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but look how that destabilized the region. And we can do that also with Gaddafi and go on down the line. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Again, I'm not saying this guy was some guy that was as pure as the wind-driven snow, but he was thumbing his nose at the International Criminal Court like Donald Trump has done and saying, look, I'm cleaning up my country. I don't care if you agree with how I do it or not, and I'm not recognizing you. And, of course, my concern is that this is a bunch of globalists trying to get control of leaders that don't want to heel to the globalist agenda. And when we look at these judges, let me show this. We went to the International Criminal Court to look at the judges. And real quick, we just click on their names. Here's one from Japan. Here's one from Italy. I mean, they're from all over the world, right? So do you want these? Here's one from an African state, one of the African states. Here's another one. She is from Peru. Let's just do a few more. Here's one from Uganda, okay? Here's one from Canada. Oh, yeah, Canada. That's just so wonderful, free country up there now, right? Here's one from the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And we just keep going down the list. And here's one from Georgia, the former, part of the Soviet Union, the Eastern Europe. Here's one from Mexico. So, and you just go on down the list. Are these the judges we want sitting in judgment of the United States of America, JJ?
No, we don't want, we're a sovereign nation. We're not a European Union. We're not part of anything. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. He's unshackling us from these globalist organizations. Why do we're self-sufficient? I know isolationism is a dirty word, but what's wrong with that? What's wrong with just focusing on America? Can we do that just for 90 days? Can we try it out? Like a 6-month, 90 days, let your money back guarantee. Why don't we try that? Why don't we try to get out of all the nations that hate us, and they have good reason to hate us because we've destroyed their nations? Why don't we get out that? Why don't we just pump in money to America and take care of Americans? What a novel idea. But we can't because we need chaos across the globe because there's NGOs involved, and that's how our politicians launder the money through the NGOs and become filthy rich and have immense power. The United States of America, look, you just went through 4 or 5 Middle Eastern countries that are destabilized, absolute chaos, living in absolute squalor. Why? Because we did it. We did it to them.
Well, here's Romania. One of the judges from Romania. I don't know anything about her personally, but Romania just canceled elections because the guy rising in power in the polls was a kind of a Donald Trump kind of character, a nationalist for Romania. They just canceled his election. Then they put the elections back on, and then they arrested him a few weeks ago for a few hours before letting him go. Do we really need a judge from Romania sitting in judgment of America, for Pete's sake?
No, we don't. And you know what? If you look at this from a different perspective, it almost makes you feel as if we're winning, right? Because now they're stretching. They're trying to maintain their power. I say like this: Donald Trump was on a hill, and there's a giant boulder, and he just pushed it, and it's rolling downhill. There's no stopping it. There's no stopping it. It's just a matter of how far down the valley does this boulder go. How far is that valley? Is it just a couple feet? Is it several miles? Is it 100 miles? I don't know. No one knows. But it's in motion. It's destroying the global power structure. How deep does it go? I don't know. But the left, the crazy left across the globe, they feel it. They know it. Everyone in our nation for sure can feel changes happening. How deep does that change go? That's up for debate. But there's no debating that the power structure in America, and America sets the tone for the world. It's changing, Brandon. We can all feel it.
Yep. And speaking of the crazy left around the globe, I went to the BBC article. Here's one from February 7th, 2025. Dozens of countries back International Criminal Court after Trump sanctions. I wonder what countries. Oh, the UK, Germany, France. Not that there aren't some wonderful people that live in the UK and Germany and France and probably listen to us, but we all know that their leaders are crazy. This is who the vice president, J.D. Vance, lectured in Germany at the Munich conference, security conference. You guys, what is wrong with you? You're arresting people for praying in front of abortion clinics. You arrest people for putting very common sense and benign statements on social media that you deem, a problem. You are not for freedom of speech. You're not for freedom of religion. Why would we dump money into NATO to defend countries like yours when you're not really free countries anymore? You don't stand for what we stand for in America, and certainly not the MAGA crowd or the constitutional crowd, the patriot crowd. So when you have Donald Trump saying, look, I'm not putting up with the International Criminal Court and its behavior, and I'm going to put sanctions against some of your members, and then all of a sudden the ones that come standing up with him are the tyrannical governments of the UK, Germany, and France. Enough said. Birds of a feather flock together. I think we now see the ICC is nothing more than a judicial puppet of the politically correct cultural Marxist, and they're going to use it to intimidate world leaders, even after they've gotten out of office. And see, my concern is if they can do to this, the former president of the Philippines, what are they going to do once Benjamin Netanyahu's out of office? What are they going to do when President Trump is out of office? Are they trying to intimidate these kind of leaders now? By the way, JJ, At what point do they not put some kind of indictment against you or me or any of the other conservative broadcasters as a threat against humanity for the things we're saying? How do we know they don't try to drag us to The Hague one day?
Well, there is nothing, and someone told me today that I was on an interview with, we dodged a nuclear missile by Kamala Harris not being president. Because, Brandon, you, me, and everyone else talking today on podcasts and social media on a conservative bet, we would have been off. We would have been begging them to just let us get off the air, because they would have opened the jails and we either got thrown in with some crazy conspiratorial law that they came up with. We dodged a bullet in America, but the clock is ticking. What are we going to do? What laws is our Congress going to solidify the executive orders and things that need to be done? I don't know. I don't trust Speaker Johnson. I don't trust that our government will protect us from international organizations. I mean, if Kamala Harris was in, do you think that we'd be outside the ICC, or do you think we'd be neck deep in it?
Oh, neck deep in it. Neck deep in it. So let me go to your concerns about Donald Trump, the safety for Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, others. Now we're seeing, and again, it could be totally that the InfoWars, Mr. White, who worked at InfoWars, apparently was on the list for his opposition to Ukraine's leader, Zelensky. It could be that was indeed a random burglary that he, stopped in progress, someone breaking into his car, and he gets killed. But Alex Jones seems to think that, and he's been told by others that even his own life is at risk. So are we going to now see broadcasters being threatened or intimidated or eliminated in this quest to tap down and intimidate global leaders and broadcasters? Is that what's coming, or is that what's here?
I think that's here. I think that, look, think about what transpired these last 4 years, and now we're uncovering that USAID was paying Reuters $30-40 million the last 2 years. $30-40 million. Politico, $8 million. Politico couldn't make their payroll. 6,000 journalists were on payroll. 700 news stations were on the payroll of the federal government. This is not conspiratorial, crazy talk anymore. This is real life. We are exposing the corruption of our federal government in things that we would have thought the Russians were doing in the 60s and 70s. We're doing it. We experienced it. We are experiencing Pravda. We're experiencing complete oppression and suppression from our own government. And don't think for a second, Brandon, that just because Trump is in office and Pam Bondi and everyone else, that's meaningless. Meaning there's thousands of deep staters inside the administrative state, and they are the ones pulling the. Look at today. What did Trump can't fire somebody? The federal judge says. Well, how did the executive branch fall under the judges in Timbuktu, Kentucky? How'd that happen?
Yep.
We are upside down. We no longer live in the republic our founding fathers created. We live in something completely different and upside down. I believe that. U.S.
federal judge says Trump cannot fire a Democratic member. Now I got an ad that popped up, whatever that. Let me just hit refresh. Cannot fire a Democratic member of federal labor board. Again, and you got these judges making rulings on what he can and cannot do with immigration. You're right. The deep state is loaded to the bear, including they are sitting on some of these benches. And now, haven't we found judges that are tied back to NGOs that got lots and lots of money?
Yes. And what I'm the thing that I'm discovering, I want to do more research on, but I can't find it. And the reason why I can't find it, Brandon, is because I'm trying to find out how many senators and congressmen have dual citizenship, dual allegiance. Do you know every time they come up with that, and judges, I can't figure out who the judges, a lot of them are naturalized citizens. Well, did you renounce your citizenship from your home country? And a lot of them have not. Look at what's happening, and you think, well, that's crazy. Really? Have you listened to AOC? Have you listened to Ilhan Omar say, well, yeah, everything that we do has to be done for the betterment of Somalia? Hold on a second. What are you talking about? And these judges, if an ICC came out, why wouldn't a judge say, oh, no, you have to answer to that? Yep, we're gonna honor that here in America, and you're going to have to go under international rule. And all they have to do is do it to a couple people. That's it. And everyone's scared to death.
Absolutely. JJ Carroll on the road tonight, traveling. You can listen to him every day at Worldview Tube, 5 Central, 6 Eastern, Monday through Friday. His website, thisistreason.com. Thisistreason.com. And you can also find him on X. What's your handle on X, JJ?
JJ Carroll 14. JJ Carroll 14, or just go to jjcarroll.com and have all my links right there and purchase my new book, Treason, bestseller on Amazon.
Treason, bestseller on Amazon by JJ Carroll. Find it, Treason, at Amazon by JJ Carroll. Travel safe. Thanks for being with us tonight, JJ.
Thank you. Have a great night.
All right, folks. Go to worldviewtube.com/events, worldviewtube.com/events. Our free Worldview Radio Understanding the Times rally is coming up Tuesday night, April 15th. We have not done a Worldview rally in 7 years. I've been here in the studio, keeping my head down, doing broadcasting. I kind of did that, since February of 1993. Got a little tired, a little burnt out. But we're going back on the road. And everybody's pretty excited about it. It's Tuesday night, April 15th at the Waukesha Expo Center. Ronald Reagan rented it, carried out a rally there. Donald Trump's rented it at least twice. We've rented it many times since the early 2000s, 1999 to the early 2000s. Spoke at a VCY America rally there in, I think, 1995, 96, 95, 96, 96, somewhere in there. I think it was 95. So there you go. We're going to rent it again. And it's free, absolutely free. Now, we're going to take an offering to offset our cost, brought to you by our foundation. But if you'd like to attend, it's free, but you do need to get a ticket so we have enough seats put out, and you need to register everyone you're bringing individually. Okay, you use the same email address over and over, but you got to register everyone. Okay, there you do it. Worldviewtube.com/events. I guess we now have like 900 people registered. So good, let's fill it up. In fact, why don't you take a picture of that right now, folks? Take a picture of that screen. Make sure you get the URL in there, worldviewtube.com/events. Send it out to your family and friends. Say, hey, let's go to this. Or, hey, I don't live in your area, but look what's coming close to you or right in your town or a couple hours away. You should go. Now, it's free, but you got to register so you have a seat, and we will take an offering. So bring your checkbook. What do you got to do? We're going to take an offering to offset the building. The 2 chairs cost us $2 a piece. So you put out, 1,500 chairs times 2. There you go. $3,000, right? And then we got to rent the building. So I think the whole thing's going to cost us $4,000 or $5,000 in building rent. Not to mention you got to fly the speakers in, hotel, give them an honorarium. So again, it's a free event, but it's brought to you by our foundation. We'll take an offering. Now, if you are a Vault member, you'll be able to live stream it. If you're a Vault member, you'll be able to live stream it. So join worldviewtube.com/vault. It's another way you can support us. And we do special events for Vault members as our way of saying thank you for joining. worldviewtube.com/vault. worldviewtube.com/vault. And you'll also be able to live stream our fall conference coming up in October with a ton of other speakers as well. So a lot of things coming up you're going to be able to live stream, including some things we'll announce soon, some other big things coming up in May that you'll be able to live stream as well. Okay? worldviewtube.com/vault. Appreciate your joining. Joining me now is Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. Patrick, welcome to the broadcast. The big breaking news story for us tonight is the arrest of the former president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte. I looked it up. I'm telling you, there's an American way and there's a Spanish way of saying it. That's the best I can do. But good old Rodrigo, apparently his biggest crime, unless I'm missing something that I can find, and I'm not saying is as innocent as the wind-driven snow, is that he was cracking down big time on drug dealers and sex traffickers. He campaigned that he would do away with them. He campaigned that he would actually kill them, that he would take out these drug lords that were enslaving his people, getting them addicted to drugs, causing them to die, sex traffickers. And now, of course, he pulled his country out of the ICC. And now they're saying, well, you did that, but we're going to hold you accountable for crimes that you did before you pulled yourself out of the ICC. What are your thoughts on the International Criminal Court, particularly when we know President Donald Trump back in February imposed sanctions on the International Criminal Court for what they've done to him, Benjamin Netanyahu? You have studied the globalists and their plans, the Trilateral Commission for decades. What is this really all about? When you read this, when you hear about this, what comes to the mind of Patrick Wood?
This is a crock. It really is. I'm sorry. The ICC has been blustering for decades, really, that they're going to eventually have some teeth. Apparently, they found teeth now by arresting this gentleman for crimes, they say, against humanity. Now, some people, especially the victims in the Philippines, they say, well, he didn't give due recourse to anybody. He just executed them, basically. And okay, so that's, they do that in China too, right? So that's what's the problem, right? But he's apparently being made a test case, and I think they're going to probably want to come after a lot of other people as well. Just wait for it.
What other people?
Well, President Trump, for instance, Netanyahu in Israel, for instance. There's probably others, but that's probably the two big ones. Mm-hmm. It's a political witch hunt, is what it is, because the ICC does not have any authority to meddle in other nations' affairs. Period. Just doesn't have it. Really doesn't have it. But this is assumed authority that they have.
So it's basically a kangaroo court that only has authority because certain governments have said, we have the authority to do this. Might makes right.
Yes, exactly. I want to hear what Duarte has to say about why he went to The Hague in the first place. Apparently, he was turning himself in. I can't figure that at this point. Why would he do that? I don't know. If he just stayed in his home country, he would be safe for the rest of his life. He's 79 years old. So I want to hear the whole story.
They went to his country and arrested him and then flew him on a private jet to The Hague.
Well, okay. I didn't see that part of it, but
there's a video. Where's the video,
incredible. Logan? That's incredible.
Let's play the video. Here we go.
Yeah.
I think we got a video, Logan says.
To my countrymen, just to give you the current situation, I am about to land sa Hague. Galing ako Dubai sa Port Airport. It's a long haul, it's a long flight. Okay ako. Do not worry. And I think this is something to do with the law and order now.
All right, it's hard to hear, but it looks like they're letting him make a video from the airline, and there you go. And now here was video from the other day in the Netherlands, where people were waiting for him to arrive, and we can kind of go forward and see if he ever pops in here. But at some point, I guess he did come through this crowd, and there were people there waiting for that to happen. So again, the reports I read is that he was taken from his home with an arrest warrant and put on that private plane and flown to The Hague.
This does not look like a mob that wants to hang him right there on the spot. They're waving. What's going on there?
I think he's got supporters, because I think a lot of people are thinking, we don't really give a rat's patootie about the drug dealers and the drug lords and the sex traffickers, right?
Exactly. I know. So what's the problem? This is just atrocious. You know, this reminds me of if they, well, I don't understand how The Hague could have an extradition treaty with the Philippines. First off, how can they fly a plane there and pick him up against his will? I don't get it. The police would have to cooperate in the Philippines to deliver him. That would be probably unconstitutional. However, this reminds me exactly what happened to Rainer Fulmish in Mexico. When Rainer, almost 2 years ago, was arrested, or he was tricked into arrest when he was in Mexico. It doesn't have any treaty with Germany. German thugs basically kidnapped him from Mexico, flew him back to Germany, and arrested him on the spot, and he's still in jail right now.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah. Yep, indeed it is. So what is it going to take for The Hague to eventually, if they keep down this path, to say, well, we don't like the things that certain broadcasters say. Let's put out an arrest warrant for them.
You're absolutely right. The ICC is in the pocket of the United Nations. They always have been. That's their legal enforcement. They don't have anything legal otherwise other than bluster. But now, you know, as the United Nations asserts itself, figure this: it's lost its influence with the World Health Organization. It's lost its influence in climate change. What's it going to do now? These people are desperate for traction. If they're going to exercise their rights through the ICC to make a stink around the world about arresting people, you remember Henry Kissinger was wanted in several countries around the world for crimes against humanity. That's what they said. They could be right too, but nevertheless, he just stayed home. He didn't go to those countries anymore, right? He was pretty savvy.
Yeah, they're saying here that he was on a flight from Manila that stopped in Dubai to refuel and was set to be transferred to a detention unit on the Dutch coast. So, yeah.
Wow.
I think the article starts out that he had been in Hong Kong. He had returned to the Philippines from Hong Kong aboard a commercial flight, landing there at the International Airport, Terminal 3, on Tuesday, March 11th. I guess he had been over there campaigning for some party, campaigning for to Filipinos there. So it looks like they arrested him right there in the Philippines and then flew him to The Hague. So
yeah,
your concern is this is, and by the way, when you look at the countries that are upset with Donald Trump for pulling out of the ICC and putting sanctions, you know the countries coming to his aid are just a bunch of trash countries. Countries, the UK, yes. Germany, France. I mean, these are trash countries. I'm sorry. Nice people there, I'm sure, right? But their leaders are trash. Their leaders are absolute trash. Emmanuel Macron, you know, we know about Germany, the UK. I mean, come on. They don't let you have freedoms there. There's no freedoms in those countries. A lot of those countries, you get arrested for posting the most benign things about Hamas or defending the Jews from Hamas. And you don't like the fact that all these Hamas people and pro-Palestine Hamas people are protesting in the street, or the fact your country is being overrun by illegal immigrants, and boom, the cops show up at your house and arrest you. So, you know, no wonder these countries love the ICC criminal court.
Exactly. You know, this is probably just a coincidence, but how old is Duarte?
He's 79.
There you go. How old is President Trump?
78.
There you go. Is this sending a message that a duly elected leader of a country and a democracy, I might add, can be arrested even if he's 79 years old?
Well, that's the thing. Is this all intimidation? I'm just verifying the age. Yeah, 79. 79.
Exactly. This smacks to me. You know, this is a setup, and certainly it's going to unravel. Somebody's going to tell the rest of the story how this warrant was served. I don't know. I haven't studied it yet, but
well, it was
the
sent to
fact
Interpol on March 11th. Philippine authorities, acting on an arrest warrant that the ICC issued and sent to Interpol, arrested him. So you get the government of the Philippines obviously agreeing, going along with it, and the ICC sought his arrest on crimes against humanity, charged in relation to alleged extrajudicial killings occurring between 2011 and 2019. So how does a president like President Trump retire Mar-a-Lago? God forbid the next president is after him is gruesome Newsom, and then they've already raided Mar-a-Lago once with the FBI under Biden. How we know Trump doesn't retire Mar-a-Lago and under gruesome Newsom he finds his Mar-a-Lago being raided again, this time to arrest him and haul him off to The Hague?
Exactly. That's conceivable, I'm sure. The story will be told, I think. However, there's more to the story that meets my eye, at least. I want to know why he would volunteer to be taken. Now, I understand people probably have guns that kill him on the spot, but perhaps if he resisted. But it says in a couple of articles that I saw, he came willingly at that point with them. Does he think he's guilty? Is he saying he's guilty? And at this point, The Hague is only going to conduct a hearing. They're not taking to trial. They said, first, we're going to take him through this hearing process to determine if we want to take him to full court and trial. So at this point, this whole thing, something's really fishy here.
And the Marcos, you remember Marcos, and then you had the lady, the president's wife, who had all the shoes, right? Well, the son is president now, right? And apparently, in recent years, the Philippine government has shifted its position on the ICC investigation. Initially, the Marcos administration, which took office in 2022, challenged the court's jurisdiction over the alleged offenses after a political falling out between Marcos and the Tita, however you say his name, again, different ways, I'll look online. Then the Marcos administration toned down its rhetoric on the ICC and stated in November it would work with Interpol. So it looks like they're taking out one of their political,
it
opposition,
really does.
Right?
It really does.
Again, what if Donald Trump or any other leader in the House, the Senate, a governor, falls on the bad side of somebody in power in the next administration or government? Boom, you're on a plane to The Hague.
Yeah.
And again, he's being accused of, things like raiding homes at night without warrants, arresting and then executing suspects, and frequently planting evidence to justify their acts. But again, am I really going to trust the reports coming from the ICC, Patrick? Look at all the things they've accused Donald Trump of doing, right?
No way. Yeah, what a nation does in its own borders is their business. It's nobody else's business. This is the whole fallacy of the United Nations in the first place. They say they have authority now over all the countries in the world. They don't. They really don't. But they say they will. And here's evidence that they can reach in, snatch a citizen that was formerly a duly elected official who did what he said he's going to do. He didn't lie about it.
He campaigned on it.
Exactly. He didn't just go out and commit genocide with just random people. And all the people, I'm sure there was innocent people who should not have been killed along the way. When guns go off, bullets fly, right? War is hell. And I would not justify the way he did it. Nobody really can justify it without due process. But nevertheless, that's their country.
And so if the Marcos administration, if President Marcos thought the former president was so guilty, then they should bring charges, a grand jury, indict him, put him on trial, and let the people of the Philippines judge him, not a bunch of clowns at the ICC from Romania and Uganda and a bunch of other third world, countries. I was thinking of the word Donald Trump called these third world nations. We all remember that, right? What he called them?
Exactly.
Blank holes. I mean, do you really want to sit with a bunch of these crooked judges? I think a lot of them probably are from very crooked countries. Sit there and judge you, me, Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu. How dare they? Romania, one of the judges from Romania. I mean, they just stopped one of their guys from having his election because he was too popular, so they canceled the election. Then they get it going again, they arrest him, and then they let him go. I mean, these are not decent countries, most of them. They're disgusting countries. And you're going to sit in judgment on them? No, let the people of the Philippines sit in judgment of this guy and hold the trials on television. And maybe the reason is they couldn't get the charges through a jury in the Philippines because maybe they don't have a whole lot of sympathy for drug dealers and sex traffickers in the Philippines.
You got it. That's exactly right. And I tell you, look at the crowd that greeted him in The Hague. They were all waving. They were hopping up and down. They had their cameras on. They were filming him. They were waving. They're cheering. Oh, this is not a mass murder, and he probably has a lot of. That means it has a lot of supporters back home as well. So they certainly could not stand that kind of display of support in their own country, to take them out. And so, hey, let's cooperate with the Interpol and this phony indictment, and let's get rid of this guy.
Wow. Technocracy.news, that's his website, and he's Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6 to 6:30 p.m. Central, 7 to 7:30 Eastern Standard, Mondays and Tuesdays. Otherwise, he's at technocracy.news, right, Patrick?
You bet it.
As always, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate you.
You bet. Bye-bye.
All right, so it looks like Schumer and the Democrats are going to shut down the government. That's the latest I have. Take a listen to this, please.
A bipartisan effort, but Republicans chose a partisan path, drafting their continuing resolution without any input from congressional Democrats. Because of that, Republicans do not have the votes in the Senate to invoke cloture on the House CR. Our caucus is unified on a clean April 11th CR that will keep the government open and give Congress time to negotiate bipartisan legislation that can pass.
All right. We've been here a million times. We'll see where this goes. There you go. All right. That's that. Let's see. What else do we have? Tom, before we go to Michael Yawn, we have the border czar, Tom Homan, lecturing, rightfully so, the governor of New York today. Listen to this.
Now let's talk about the green light law. Let's talk about your governor. Your governor who stayed on national TV after NYPD were assaulted by illegal alien gang members. You had a woman burned alive by illegal alien subway. Your governor stands on national TV. I think criminal aliens should be deported. What's one of the first things she do? She goes down to New York City and tries to fire the mayor who wants to help me find public safety threats. Let me give a shout at Mayor Adams. Like him or love him, I called him up for 2 years by not doing enough. As a career cop, he wasn't doing enough. But when I sat down with him back in November, he came to the table. He wanted to help on significant public safety threats. He don't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want to be an immigration officer. But the mere fact he wants to get us into Rikers Island, where people are locked up because they committed a crime, he wanted to get federal immigration authorities back into Rikers Island to talk to illegal aliens who committed a crime against a citizen. Now let's talk.
All right, so there you go. He's taking on the governor of New York tonight as well. All right, folks, do me a favor, will you please go to worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. This is one of the ways, folks, we're able to shove out free programming, not putting our 24/7 stream behind a paywall. A lot of people, that's how they do it, not us. We try to keep education, public service, and ministry front and center, helping people understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. So please, go to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution. Again, I'm going to challenge some of you, and thank you to those of you that have sent me communications saying, I'm taking up your challenge. I've been watching for a couple years, never made a contribution. I'm doing my part now. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There are a lot more of you out there that watch every night. You don't miss. And you can support us. So if you can't, even $10 a month, $20 a month, right? I do need some of those that can do $500 one time, $1,000 one time. But if you can only do $10, $20 a month, that is awesome. And then when it's added to the $10, $20 of other people, it starts to add up. So never underestimate that, folks. Don't ever say, oh, my contribution is so small, it won't matter. That's not true. If everybody thought that way, we'd be in big trouble because a lot of our contributions are $10, $20 a month contribution. You can set up an automatic contribution at worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. I guess we've sent out now over 7,000 of these. You can go to worldviewstore.com and order free business cards, printed front and back, full color. Tell about the mission statement of the Worldview Tube Network. And you can pass them out to family and friends and people you meet around your community. And apparently we have sent out 7,000 of these in the last 4 weeks. So thank you. Anybody can do this. They're free. We even pay for the shipping. So even if you cannot support us financially, you can still support us by passing out these cards. And you run out of the 20, order up some more. We'll send them to you. Okay? So you can promote us and you can pray for us. Even if you cannot support us financially, you can still support us by promoting us and praying for us. So please consider doing that. Worldviewstore.com. Joining me now by phone is Michael Yon on BlackRock, basically cutting a deal when it comes to the Panama Canal and putting them under American control. He joins us literally from the Panama Canal. There might be some background noise, so I'll warn you guys up front. He literally is on the Panama Canal, joins us by phone. Michael, thank you for joining us. Give us your thoughts. BlackRock strikes a $23 billion deal to place Panama Canal ports under American control. Tell us about it, please, Michael.
Right. The noise that you hear is I'm actually right in front of one of the ports that they just bought. And I'm here coincidentally, actually, researching something else. And but I pass by this like daily. So this is, of course, BlackRock is reportedly spent or is going to pay $23 billion for a couple of the ports. And I go by them all the time, either by air or in the boat sometimes, and I just drive by them. So they're very busy. I'm looking at all their containers right now. Now there's a lot more going on here than just these ports. And keep in mind, BlackRock, of course, is, the thing was just said within the last 48 or 72 hours that he's totally good with letting the invasion continue. He's very clear about that, very clear words. Like he thinks that we need all these invaders to continue to come into the United States. So that's who just bought these ports. And that's it. So it's quite interesting to see this play out up close and personal, especially since I've spent about almost a year of the last 4 years here. Just because when Biden was installed, I thought, well, Panama is finally going to reach some sort of turning point for numerous reasons. One is the things going on down in the Darien, and another is, obviously the canal here, and then there's many other issues as well. But one thing that was interesting, just yesterday, a document was released by the Panamanian government, and I'm getting it translated now. It should be done in a couple of hours. But it's the document in Spanish is basically, it looks like it was written by the United Nations to me. But it's very clear that they're pushing, and the government is now going to allow many of these people that have come through the Darien Gap to actually get to be able to stay in Panama with permission, right? So they're going to be able to stay. That's literally, the government's just released that document yesterday. I should have it up. I should have it translated within 2 more hours. And so this is the way it's going. I mean, you can see that this country ultimately, in my view, will become destabilized. I see numerous players that would like to see them destabilized, each for their own reasons. And basically, Panama is a big, juicy sheep with a garland of pork chops around its neck, surrounded by predators who are also predacious towards each other. Right, so they're fighting. They're going to rip this country apart, trying to get the pieces of it. China is still pulling in huge numbers of people, and getting citizenship here and that sort of thing. And in the Darien Gap, just in 2023, we know I'm just going to give you 1 year, 2023, more than 500,000 people came through. And we know that. We know the names and everything, right? They came more than 500,000, more than 25,000 of those that came to the Darien Gap were Chinese. More than 25,000 were Chinese, just 2023. Now, during Biden's reign, I'm guessing, it's a very well-educated guess, that about 1.4 million came through the Darien Gap alone. And I'm saying that based on, we have records for almost 1.1 million, and then a lot of the records are missing. So extrapolating, it would be roughly 1.4 million. And that's actually being conservative, probably a little bit more than that, but I'm being conservative in case those records ever emerge. I definitely should be well accurate. But this is just one invasion route, keep in mind. And the BlackRock guy thinks he wants the invasions to continue. Now, one thing is very important to me, and I communicate with Trump team constantly. Today, yesterday, I mean, pretty much every day, right? And I keep telling them that if you're not defunding the United Nations, all the rest of this does not matter. You're just turning off the water spigot. Now, the flows through the Darien Gap right now of the invasion is probably 1 or 2% of what it used to be at this time last year. I mean, it's very low, like, 15, 20 a day, that sort of thing. But that said, all the plumbing is still in place. The United Nations, they're not far from me. Their office, their complex at the Ciudad de Saber, the City of Knowledge, the former U.S. Army base called Fort Clayton, they basically, they don't really own it, but they rent a lot of buildings there. They lease a lot of buildings there, and they're fully operational. They're fully operational down in Colombia right now and here in Panama. And all along the pipeline that we're checking, they're fully operational. All the camps are manned. I saw, Tucker Carlson talking with Colonel Doug McGregor yesterday, and they mentioned my work down here. And Doug McGregor was saying these camps need to be all torn down. And that's exactly, I talked with Doug about that a couple of days before. It's like, look, if you don't tear these camps down, you're just joking. You know what I mean? None of this matters because you're turning off the water spigot while the plumbing is still in place, because sooner or later Trump will be gone, and it will be very soon, of course, because within 4 years he's gone. And within 2 years, his power is going to be abating, significantly. If he hasn't ripped up the United Nations by then, the waterworks is still there. They're just going to continue their operations. I published today that the UN IOM, their plan through 2028, they're very open about it. And their plan is crystal clear to continue the invasions. So this is just a minor setback with Trump, doing his thing right now. And so I'm not even sure it's a setback. I mean, they're going to continue to build up their structure, and then just when the flows kick on, boom, Europe will get more. Ireland's basically a dead man walking. We went over there and checked that out a couple of years ago, and Canada, similar. And, the flows, and it's going to end up destabilizing this country that I'm in, Panama. And you know where I'm standing right now, by the way? I wish we had video. There's a fire behind me, and it's a eternal flame. It started, it's a memorial for there was a big famous incident here in 1964 where some students were killed protesting about the United States being here. They were communist students and that sort of thing. So there's a fire right behind me. It's the eternal flame, and the Panamanian flag here. Many people have seen the photo of the students flying up the flagpole or climbing up the flagpole. It's very famous from 1964. If you web search it, you'll see super famous photo. It may have been photo of the year, probably was. And I'm also looking at the canal headquarters, right? And it's right in front of me, and right by Ancon Hill. For those who know Panama City, you know exactly what I'm looking at right now, and you know exactly where I'm at with this description. Right by all this stuff is together. The Panama Canal is just close to me. The China Bridge, I was at it this morning. They're working on it this morning. That's Bridge 4. Now, some people are getting angry now when I call it China Bridge, but I learned to call it China Bridge from Panamanians. But after Trump said, that China is doing all these things, and when I kept calling it China Bridge, suddenly people started getting upset about it. But I'm like, hey, I learned the term China Bridge from you guys, you know? And actually, one thing that's important, Brandon, is that a lot of people want the United States to come back. A lot of them do, not all, but a lot of them want the United States to come back, which is interesting in and of itself. So, and there are, I think between us and a million people listening, I think the United States is going to come back and put bases here, and I'm going to guess 3 bases. I'm just guessing. It's an educated guess, but that's all it is. I think there'll be one down in the Darien province and a couple more. And actually, the Panamanian government just announced yesterday they're buying some Super Tucano light attack aircraft. Those are excellent aircraft. Actually, if you look at my Afghanistan work, I was like 15 years ago saying we need these things in Afghanistan. Everybody loves the A-10, but I wanted Super Tucanos. But anyway, that's what the Panamanian Senate Front is about to get. Or let's say they're not supposed to have the military, but they're about to have attack aircraft, which is exciting a lot of Panamanians. And actually, many Panamanians seem to think right now that there's a lot of public commentary in the last 24 hours after the announcement of the Super Tucanos. Some people think that they're going to use those to fight back the Americans, but rest assured, it's American money that's going to buy them. I'm guessing anyway.
So does Panama? Are they wanting to not have the influence of China in their country, or do they?
No, they don't want it. I mean, they want the money, but they're crystal clear. They don't want the Chinese here. They don't. Keep in mind, there's different types of Chinese here. There's Chinese that have been here since 170 years or so, and so they're Panamanians. You know what I mean? They're super welcome. They're just Panamanians. They're part of the fabric, right? But then there's the new ones. And the old Chinese don't want the new ones either. So, I mean, it's the old Chinese that are here, that have been here since railroad and other days, and then finally the canal days. And now, again, they're like super multi-generational Chinese here. They speak Spanish fluently and that sort of thing.
So are you concerned about, I don't know if you would call it a civil war or an invasion through immigration, all these CCP folks coming in there? Are you concerned that this is going to be a flashpoint of conflict between America and China there at the Panama Canal?
Well, you know me. If I'm setting up shop somewhere, you should probably be moving out. I mean, there's a reason I spent the last, so much, like 25% of the last 4 years or so I've spent here. The rest of it's been off in, Texas and Japan and Thailand and Argentina, looking at different aspects of this, many different countries. But, in the last 4 years, I've been in about 30 countries looking at this. Canada, Bahamas. I mean, I've got a pretty serious grip on the context. But I keep coming back to Panama because I realize from my experience of studying wars and being in wars in different places, that the conditions are accruing here. And out of all the places in the world I've ever been, I am standing in one of the most vital places in the world right now, at the Panama Canal, right next to the big Hutchison port, right next to the canal. I see the cranes right now that are working on the canal where I'm standing, right? So, I'm literally within crossbow distance of the canal. So this is really actually so important because it's a path between the seas, which is an excellent book. Everybody should read The Path Between the Seas. But it's also a path between the continents. They're building a road down to Colombia. Now, everybody denies that, but I can assure you 100% that they are. 100%. If anybody says they're not doing it, they don't know what they're talking about, or they are lying, because I'm the one that found it, right? I went down there about a year and a half ago and found it. They're building 2 bridges. And if you line up the azimuth of those bridges, take your compass or just look on Google Earth, and you'll see that, boom, it goes right to where they've been thinking about building a road for, 100 years longer. And so, it's already mapped out. And, I've got a book, China's Belt and Road Initiative, Panama. And, they're talking about going right that route. They're clearly building. And so that's a path between the continents, which has big implications, positive and negative, depending on which way, you look at it. So this is what I'm getting to, though. Whatever happens, this will be a contested area forever, as long as people do human trade, right? As long as they do, 500 years ago, well, about 520 years ago now, when 523-ish years ago, when Columbus was sailing off the Panamanian coast, the Darien Isthmus, he was trying to get over, and find a way to the India, right? So, I mean, they were trying to find a way. And finally, Balboa came, and in 1510, he opened a city or a town, let's say a settlement, called Santa Maria La Antigua del Darien, right? So that was the first Western settlement that was on mainland South or North America, right? So it was in the Darien, right? That's how important it is. In 1510, Balboa opened that. They were like, we're going to make a path between the seas, right? And that didn't last long. They lasted about 14 years, and the Indians and the mosquitoes and everything else crushed them. And then many other people have come to try to make a path between the seas. One of those was the Scottish. They came in 1698-ish, arguably, and they they gave two goes at making a passage in the Darien, and 2,000 dead Scotsmen later, Scotland was bankrupt. So they went bankrupt, and then in 1706/1707, they were absorbed by the United Kingdom. So Scotland was dissolved as a sovereign country in 1707 because they got smashed flat in the Darien. Then came other people who all got smashed, and then came the French, who had been successful with the Suez Canal, and the man named de Lesseps, French guy, you see his name all over the place here, he came and he tried to make a French canal across the Isthmus of Panama. Of course, they did a lot of studies on Nicaragua and all that, and I've actually been up there and looked at that as well. But then the French went bankrupt, and de Lesseps almost went to prison. And then the crazy Americans came and said, "We can do it." And a lot of people were betting against the Americans because it was pretty crazy to think that you could do it. And then they did it, and it's right in front of me. Not only did they open the canal in 1914, it's a marvel. I mean, if you haven't seen the Panama Canal, you need to come down and get in a boat and go through it. And if you can, get in a helicopter or an airplane and go over it, which I've done quite a few times. In fact, I'm trying to arrange for another one right now because I want to get over. There goes a plane just went over me. You might have heard it.
So let me ask you this, Michael. How concerned are you about BlackRock? Because Radio Free Asia has an article out. BlackRock scrutinized for alleged China investment misstatements. How close do you think is BlackRock tied to China?
Super close. I mean, they're one of the only firms that's allowed to do asset management in China. I mean, think about that for a minute. I mean, basically, Trump giving it to BlackRock is just, I think, basically taking it from one hand and putting it in the other.
Yes, that was my concern.
It's very, very clear. I mean, so everybody gets excited. Yay, wow, they got an American flag. No, I don't think so.
Is building the military bases there, is that going to be our way of telling China, don't mess with the Panama Canal?
It's really unclear because you see this blended approach about what's going on. For instance, Fink at BlackRock, I mean, he was crystal clear like 48, 72 hours ago. I saw the video. And, he wants the invasions to continue, which means lots and lots of Chinese are still going to get. I mean, this government, Panama, is relatively weak. And there is just so many people that want a piece of this country. It is literally a juicy lamb with a garland of pork chops around its neck.
So Panama is being pushed around. So it's going to be a matter of who puts in the most assets, the most troops, the most money, and gets down there and physically backs up the government and gets the on the side of the government down there, because it sounds like they're easily pushed around right now.
Yeah, but again, China is coming in with demographic weapons. I mean, they are flooding this place with demographic weapons. There's a clear move to destabilize Panama. But let me leave Panama for a minute and go over to Asia, to Thailand, not Taiwan, but Thailand. And it's interesting, and I compare and contrast because I'm quite familiar with Thailand. If you web search my name, you'll see me flying around with the prime minister and all that stuff. And so I spent a lot of time. I've been all over that country. I was just over there again last year looking at it, and I see there's at least at least two major powers destabilizing Thailand, and maybe more, but definitely at least two, and that would be Chinese Communist Party and the United States. And that's what it appears to be happening here in Panama. It appears to me that the United States and China are both destabilizing Panama for their own reasons and in their own ways, right? China just wants to slowly take it because that's their way of doing it. They just like to grow over you like kudzu, right? Like a vine, and they just cover up your whole structure. And actually, one Chinese officer told me that, actually, a military officer. And then another general in Honduras told me that. He's quite familiar with the Chinese because he's of Chinese descent. And they both used almost precisely the same words. They're like, China doesn't want to come and attack you. They will just become you. It's interesting that PLA officer said, no, we're not going to attack Taiwan. Now I'm talking about Taiwan, not Thailand. He said, we're not going to attack Taiwan because we're just going to become Taiwan. You don't understand how we're doing this. We already have thousands of their countries in China. And he's like, this is China. I was talking with the PLA officer in Taiwan. I said this to some military officers one time some years ago, and they thought I'd lost my mind. They're like, there is no way you talk to a Chinese military officer in Taiwan. And I'm like, I assure you I did. And last year I was actually with a friend of the president of Taiwan. I was with him quite a few times, dinner and lunch and in his office. And I said, about 15 years ago or so, I was here and I was talking with a PLA officer, and I told some American officers that, and they all thought I was crazy. He said, yeah, actually, I'm the one that leads their tours. He said, they actually give tours to the Chinese officers, and he's the one that leads them. I just messaged him last week. I mean, this is the kind of crazy world that we live in. You know what I mean? Where mainland Chinese officers come and take tours of Taiwan. You can't make up this stuff.
Let me ask you.
It's just like right out of a fiction book.
Yeah. Let me ask you in closing, because I know you're on a tight schedule. When you look at what's going on with Panama, still we have concerns about Taiwan, the Philippines, what's going on with Ukraine and Russia and trying to get a deal there. And yet Russia, Ukraine, and Russia, Iran, and China are about to have military exercises. We have all the things going on in the world that we have going on. Now you had the Panama Canal to our conversation. How concerned are you, Michael, that the globalists are not going to sit by and let Donald Trump and Elon Musk change the game plan, the World Economic Forum game plan, or whatever it might be? How long before you think they create massive trouble, or even, I hate to say it, more attempts on the life of President Trump? But in other words, they're not going to just let him sit here for 4 years and stop the World Economic Forum agenda or the globalist agenda and do what he's doing? Or do you think they're just going to wait him out for 4 years?
I don't know. I mean, there's many species of globalists, by the way, one of which is obviously Donald Trump. But there's different types of them, and these oligarchical structures are fighting each other. They always have. I mean, I read the reason I'm standing here by the fire and all that stuff and near the headquarters, because I've been at the library all day. It's the old library. I spent all day yesterday in it and all day today, right? I mean, I'm looking at the historical issues that are surrounding Panama, but, also I've read a lot about Rome and all these other things, all these Belt and Road initiatives that people think are new now. They go back to the Roman times and Genghis Khan. And I mean, this is Marco Polo stuff. It never ends, right? And so right now, it's a huge fight between very powerful oligarchical structures, some of whom are blended with each other. Like BlackRock is blended across they're like a made-a country, right? There's some of these oligarchical, most of them, in my view, are made-a country. Let's look at, say, the Catholic Church. That's like a made-a country, the Vatican, right? It's technically a little country there, but it's also got power around the world that transcends borders, right? There are many globalist groups like that. And then when they come together and meet at World Economic Forum over in Switzerland or in China, because they have meetings in China and other places too, when they come together at those meetings, then we call them, that's the guys. But in fact, that's a constellation of other, basically little galaxies of globalists, right? And so there's all kinds of, this is very complex. It's like, when I had Brett Weinstein down here in the jungle, and he He loves the jungle, I'll tell you that. And he went down to the Darien Gap. And, of course, he had spent a lot of time in Panama because he did his PhD work here. And Brett said to him, you keep saying they, but who is they? And who runs this thing? He said, who runs it? I said, Brett, I don't really know. Who runs this jungle that we're in? You know what I mean? Nobody runs this jungle. We know that there's, crocodiles here and all these other things, but and they all have lives of their own, but they also cooperate in their own ways, so that's the way these globalists are. Like the Chinese and BlackRock clearly work. BlackRock clearly works with the U.S. president. But the president will be gone, and BlackRock will work with the next president. So whoever's in charge of BlackRock may be in charge for a very long time, but who's the president of the United States? They're just going to come and go. They're like leaves on a tree, right? So this is the long-term, long-game globalism. There's many types of globalism, and some of the structures that we're dealing with now have been around for 2,000 years or more, right?
Right.
And then others are newer.
Look at this here, folks. Here, if you want to follow him on X, at Michael_Yon, at Michael_Yon, to follow him on X and keep up with the latest. So the story tonight is, again, BlackRock is going to basically, take control to some degree with their investment, $23 billion. But is it really just, again, as he said, changing the name, but the same group really involved in BlackRock apparently is so influenced by the Chinese. But as he said, this is an area that is continuing to be filled up with CCP folks. America wants a presence down there, and it's a great choking point for providing, for cutting off America and the goods and services that need to come into our country through that. So again, strategic places to surround the United States and collapse us from within could be the strategy. Kind of the new way of warfare, unrestricted warfare without firing a shot. Closing comment?
Oh, yeah. Now, keep in mind, there's 7 major naval chokeholds in the world, one of which is this canal, and this is by far the most important for the United States. And then there's the Suez, which has been largely blocked by that war over there. And so much of the traffic through the Suez has been coming through here, right? And then there's the Bab al-Mandeb, Strait of Hormuz, of course, Strait of Malacca, and some others. But the bottom line is, I think, let's see if I'm right, it could take years, but I think you're going to see some globalist structures that include the United States and Zionists will go for Suez. They'll go for Suez, they'll go for Bab al-Mandeb, and they will go for Strait of Hormuz, which means going for Iran, right? And so I think that you're going to see that, because when you look at this from a historical perspective, it doesn't matter about Trump and all that. He'll come and go. But there's the larger energies at work here. And with those larger historical sort of just precedent and the way things go, I think they're going to go for all 4 of those. There's 7 major choke points, but I think they're going to go for 4 of them. And one of them is here, right now, where I'm at, Panama Canal.
Wow. Michael Yon reporting literally from the Panama Canal. Be sure to follow him on X, at Michael_Yon, at Michael_Yon. Michael, as always, thank you for your great reporting and literally on location. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Yon checking in. Follow him at Michael_Yon. Joining me now is Dean Haskin and Chris Bowman. Folks, remember the 2008 crash? And a lot of people lost a lot of money in the markets, their 401k, and for many people, they were not able to retire. If they had to go back to work. How many of you are concerned about where we're at with this unstable global economy and so many pressures on it? What are some of the critical components that you need in your financial plan as a retiree or as you're looking to retire? Joining me now, again, Dean Haskin, Chris Bowman. Guys, welcome back. How do you, like my setup there? Because a lot of folks got really hurt in 2008, right, Dean? And guys that had planned to retire, guys, they couldn't. Others that had,
Correct.
they had to go back to work. They lost a lot of money in their 401k. Talk to me about that.
You're absolutely right, Brandon, and thanks for having us again. And the reason I wanted to get with you, as soon as possible at this juncture is not just due to the fact that we've had a pullback in the market, but it is something that speaks to just the fragility of everything in our financial markets and our economy right now. And it speaks to the reason why being financially diversified and having a good, sound, strategic financial plan for yourself moving forward, especially in times like this, is critically important. And, as we've seen, I just got out of a meeting where we were talking about different things to do in terms of broadcasting and advertising and promotions. And, the topic came up of tariffs. And if you look at that, we've heard so much about tariffs in this year alone. I've heard the word tariff more since President Trump was elected than I have probably cumulative my entire life. But even with all this talk about tariff, nobody really knows exactly what is going on there. And so, again, that's what speaks to the reason that a person needs to be diversified. And if you look at what's been happening on Wall Street, you'd be hard pressed to find them talk about what's happening with tariffs, what's happening with the stock market, and have them not mention something about gold and why to be diversified into gold. On the planning side of things, and I'll let Chris chime in to tell you, some of the things that he's been doing for his clients and how that all ties into as well. When you have something like these events that are happening, and they could get worse, mind you, what having that plan in place means, or what the game changer or difference can be. So Chris, tell them a little about that.
Yeah, what's interesting is, we might sit down with, 10 people, over the course of a week. And out of those 10 people, 9 of them don't have any written plan. They don't have an income plan. They don't have a retirement plan. They don't have a tax plan, and they don't have an estate plan. So they're going into their advisor, and the advisor is telling them what they're up or down on a given month or quarter or year. There's so much more that goes into that, especially right now. I mean, you wouldn't start a business without a business plan. You should absolutely not go through retirement without a retirement plan, well spelled out. And so putting a plan together and making sure that they understand how long will their money last? Do they have a sustainable withdrawal rate? Dr. Wade Pfau out of the American College in Dallas just re-upped his numbers and changed his numbers from a 4% sustainable withdrawal rate to under 4%. And so people have to be adjusting their plans because of inflation, because the stock market is going down. So having a plan, having a diverse portfolio, which hits, what you were just talking about, Dean, these are times where if the stock market's going down and people actually need liquid monies, maybe they're utilizing part of their gold portfolio for that. So they don't have to sell stock at a loss in order to do that. So there's all sorts of strategies that really, really help people. One of them is not to panic. And Brennan, you kind of hit the Great Recession and how people lost a lot of money during that time. Yet if they would have stayed the course with a well thought out plan, the stock market was recovering within a year, and it was close to a 14-year bull market for the next 14 years. So, putting a plan together, staying the course, staying connected to your advisor that's updating your plan is just paramount in these times.
All right. So are there any particular things right now that you're looking at that have you nervous, either one of you?
Well, throw a dart against the wall, put all the categories up there, and any one of them will work. With what we're looking at now with the debt and the issues there, the world does not want anything to do with buying U.S. debt right now. That's a problem because we need the world to be buying U.S. debt right now. Again, with what's happening with tariffs and what that's going to do to price inflation, that's a problem. That's a problem that hits every home, every household. Like to Chris's point, adjusting these numbers that we have, even in our plan, due to inflation, due to the changing culture that we have, and we're not even don't have time in this program, but to get into the further development of BRICS. All this tariff talk started, Brandon, as a direct result of the emerging alliance of BRICS, which President Trump basically was trying to slow down that process. And the only thing that's happened since even before he took office and to date, the BRICS alliance continues to grow. They are literally saying, we hear you, but we're going to do this anyway because we feel this is better for ourselves. So that's where, again, going back to Chris's point about a plan. Look, for those of your people who are tuning in here, diversification is a key, a plan is a key. And maybe with what's happened here recently on Wall Street, maybe it serves as a wake-up call to some to say, listen, I see that there is a very volatile economic pot brewing out there, if you will. Or maybe it's a confirmation of some fears or concerns that they have where they're saying, I don't think things are going in the right direction. There's going to be some problems ahead. And hopefully maybe those two messages are things that are floating around in their mind, and they contact someone like us here at Swiss America, where we can talk to them a little more about diversifying into tangibles, a non-debt encumbered asset. You reach out to somebody like Chris, who can talk to you about putting a plan together in terms of your taxation, in terms of your estate, things that, like Chris said, you couldn't have put it better. You wouldn't go into business without a business plan, or most wouldn't, and you shouldn't probably, but you definitely shouldn't go into your future without some form of a financial, albeit retirement plan or otherwise.
All right. So if they want to get a hold of you guys, how do they do this?
Well, at Swiss America, you call through to Wes, and you can visit us online at www.swissamerica.com. I think you see the number there on the screen for Chris. Chris, how could they get in touch with you?
Sure. You can reach me at chris@prospectwealthadvisors.com and telephone number 602-807-1411. Love to hear from you, and certainly love to help out in any way we can.
Give your website one more time, Chris.
Sure. It's C. Bowman or Chris at prospectwealthadvisors.com or C. Bowman at prospectwealthadvisors.com.
Okay, excellent. And of course, if they want to do precious metals, 602-558-8585, 602-558-8585. Did you say you have a specific website, Chris?
Yep, www.prospectwealthadvisors.com. www.prospectwealthadvisors.com.
All right, there. Well, show details. All right, show details. I'm going to allow this website. I don't know why they would do that, but there it is. All right. You know what? You never know these crazy companies. Some of them. They seem to only do that to conservative sites. Isn't that interesting? And don't feel bad. They do it to mine too. I had to do the same thing with my own website the other day to get into it. But there it is. Oh, that's a beautiful website. There you go. ProspectWealthAdvisors.com. ProspectWealthAdvisors.com. And then 602-807-1411. 602-807-1411. All right, guys, things people better be thinking about, because last thing you want to do is retire and then find yourself having to go to work at Costco. Although I saw Costco's raising their hourly rate to like $30 an hour. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, well, it's a changing world. But, House, you're right. It's not about people who won't be able to retire. It's an avoidable situation if you take a moment to contact Chris, contact us, and learn a little bit more about some of the steps that you can take. It's one thing working at Costco is not bad. Working in retirement is not bad. It's just putting yourself in a position where if it's avoidable, you would prefer not to, or you can't, or whatever, or you don't have to. And that only happens by way of preparation and planning.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Well said. That's absolutely right, Chris. All right, Chris, Dean, thank you guys for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brad. Great seeing you.
You too, my friend. Stay in touch. All right, folks, that does it for this edition of Brannon House Live. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and supporting the network. Remember, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all our sponsors. Worldview Healthcare, that's the wellness company. You get ivermectin, amoxicillin. You can find out about all of their different plans, their health plans. There you go. There's some right there. Check it all out, folks. You'll find them at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Let's see, who else do we got? I think we've talked about everybody pretty much tonight, right? I love the water filters, folks, because I don't want all these chemicals in my drinking water, and I don't have them in my drinking water because I have the filter on my kitchen sink underneath the counter, and I have one on the shower, and Dolly loves this water. All right. In fact, speaking of which, let me go to her real quick. I'm sorry, I'm hitting the buttons. There they are. Our studio dogs, Lily, the mini schnauzer, and Dolly. Thanks for watching. May God save America. Take care.
There's really only one person in the world, and you've had him on the show, Dr. Mark Miller, who understood what would happen if you combined these three ingredients: the collagen, the Verisol B collagen, the asteryl astaxanthin, and the cat's claw. And each one of them independently are amazing, but when you put them together synergistically, they increase each other's power. And that's why we're getting all these amazing results. And the reason why they're so great, Brendan, is because When you take a look at collagen, you mentioned it, hair, skin, nails, but collagen also makes up 40% of the protein in your body, makes up your gastrointestinal lining. This is why you're not having to take Pepcid anymore. It makes up your joint spaces, your bone health, your teeth health. You need a good collagen in you, and we have the best, but it's because of the other two ingredients. Asteryl astaxanthin, 70 human clinical trials. And by the way, collagen, or Verisol B collagen, has 10 human clinical trials behind it. Astaxanthin is water soluble and fat soluble, so we can get and protect around the cell, but it can also get into the cell and protect inside the cell, where it sets up by the mitochondria, the powerhouse energy producing organelles. And when it produces energy, it's going to spit out some free radicals, and we need a great antioxidant to absorb those and scavenge those free radicals. And there's nothing better than astaxanthin. It's 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, 3,000 times stronger than resveratrol, 850 times stronger than CoQ10, 350 times stronger than green tea extract. It is the powerhouse, the king of all antioxidants. And then let's not forget about the cat's claw. Cat's claw is the king of I would say, from a standpoint of reducing and eliminating inflammation. That's what it does. It really targets that nuclear factor kappa B. Not really necessarily, you know that, but that's the pathway to your cells that causes us so many problems, because chronic inflammation in our bodies causes health issues. And when we can reduce and eliminate that, we have a home run. And that's what the cat's claw does. The astaxanthin is also an anti-inflammatory. Collagen also has properties of being anti-inflammatory. Synergistically together, these three are a powerhouse.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, well, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. Take a look at this right here. If you appreciate what we're doing and bringing to you each and every day with 24/7 free programming and all the shows we sponsor and push out for free, and push them out live for free, please consider going now and making a contribution to wvwfoundation.com, wvwfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. If you'd like to make a contribution over the phone, you can use that number right there on the website, 901-825-0652. Please text or leave a voicemail. We do receive some pretty hostile phone calls, so I'm not going to be anything other than straightforward. We screen our calls. A lot of weirdos and crazies out there, folks. So just text us or leave a message, and we'll get right back to you if you want to support us through a contribution over the phone. Okay? All of it is there at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your trust. And thank you for helping us continue for, well into now 3 decades of doing this.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
And welcome. Glad you're with us on this March 12, 2025. Joining me today is Yusama Dakdog, born and raised in Egypt, never was a Muslim, by the way. His daddy planted Baptist churches all over Egypt. And of course, that was before Muslim Brotherhood, those peaceful, loving Muslim Brotherhood, also known as Hamas, which Muslim Brotherhood started in Egypt in 1928 by Albania. They started Hamas in 1987. and CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, their PR firm, their propaganda firm, I would say. CARE was started in 1994. Yusama came to America and has been warning Americans for years about, well, what is now unfolding before our very eyes. And finally, somebody is pushing back, and that somebody would be Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and the President of the United States, Donald Trump. President Trump has signed executive orders demanding that these pro-Hamas agitators and protest organizers that are not U.S. citizens, that they are booted out of the country. And now here's a headline from our friend Daniel Greenfield, who also happens to be Jewish, says Dems rally for Columbia University jihadist whose group endorsed Hamas and murder of Jews. That's just one headline today. We have another one that has to do with a judge, Jerusalem Post, judge to hold hearing about Mohammed Khalil's challenge to arrest. The hearing is expected to deal mostly with scheduling matters. Lawyers for both sides said in a joint court filing on Tuesday evening. I guess one of my questions would be, how does this young man have the money to fight the U.S. government? Where's he coming up with the money to fight the U.S. government? I think we know, don't we? Or can at least pretty well speculate. Joining me, I'll talk about this and a lot more, including more Christians being slaughtered in Syria. And who's coming to their aid? Israel and Russia. Wow. Think about that again, folks. The Jewish state of Israel is coming to the defense of Christians. Now, where are all the so-called Christian anti-Semites? Candace Owens, Stu Peters. That's, I believe, what they are. Tucker Carlson. Where are these people? The so-called Christians who trash Israel and the Jews all the time, or at least give a platform to those that do. Where are they? Why are they not on social media thanking Israel for stepping in to protect the Christians? And then, of course, they're slaughtering the Alawite Muslims, which are really, as Sharam explained the other night,